Any show that, it went so well that you did not expect?
With Raghu,
Yes.
there was one gig that we played, and nobody knew who he was. And music festivals, mainly, I mean, people come there to discover new artists, right? There was absolutely nobody on the field. Everyone late night, drunk, all of them in their tents and all of that. Camping was going on. We went, did a quick sound check, and there were some 15 people standing there, slowly, each one crawling out of their tents. By the time we got into the second verse of the song, the entire place was packed. Everyone, whoever was sleeping, doing whatever, whether they were interested or not, they thought, I'll skip this band, I'll go to a different city. Everyone at 10 a.m. or something, I can't remember the time. At that time in the morning, everyone jumping up and down to the music,
Wow.
So we've played a lot of shows like that.
Hey guys, welcome to Art and Culture Tribe. I hope you guys are doing well. Today we have with us an amazing drummer, a great friend of mine. He's been part of many bands, one of them being People Tree, the Raghu Dikshit Project, Moksha. You want to know who that is? Let's check him out. So let's welcome one of my favorite musicians, Willy Demoz. Hello, bro.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Dinkar. Thank you for doing this. It's
I'm so happy. I'm so glad you agreed to do this.
my pleasure.
So what's happening? How are you? What's going on?
Um, what's going on? Just life, I suppose. Just been busy with the music school that I'm running, and a couple of shows here and there. Haven't been playing much though,
Okay.
as much as I'd like to. But yeah, things are going on.
Okay. Cool. We would like to know, how you got into drums.
By accident and with a lot of opposition.
Okay.
Yeah, from my parents and my family, because the times when we took towards music, wanting to play music live, music wasn't lucrative. You couldn't make a living out of it, and it was extremely, you could say, dangerous to get into that line, where you don't know where you're heading, because there were no shows, and we'd practice the entire year just to play one competition, NLS, and which was the biggest competition. It was like a rock show for us. It was then. And yeah, so it was with a lot of opposition. My dad was a drummer, and my uncles were musicians as well. But from their experience, and at that point, they really didn't want their children to get into music. And of course, music is music, and when you take a liking towards it, there's nothing that will stop you. So I still kept to their end of the bargain. So I became an engineer,
Okay.
a mechanical engineer. It was a blessing that whatever I've done, everything's just fallen in place. And at one point, I met Tony, and we were in the same college, and I wasn't playing music then, and I would watch him play by the canteen, college canteen, for all the other folks there, and I'd really wonder, wow, this guy's so good. I wish I could play with him someday. And I wanted to play the guitar, but of course, at home, no guitar, no drums, no music. Just do something out of your life, better than becoming a musician. Of course, with all the good intentions that they had for
Yeah.
us. And what they said then was right, considering how things were. Later on, lots of venues opened up, big bands like Indian Ocean, Moksha, Raghu Dikshit, all of these guys really opened up the scene, I think. And they also did it at all odds,
Yes.
right?
Of course.
And so yeah, I was in college once, in the music room, just watching Tony and everyone play. And Tony's drummer was late. A great guy, good friend. He was late, so the guys around me, so I used to play on college benches and irritate the teachers.
Okay.
And so they were like, go play, you play the drums. And I'm like, no, playing that is way different from sitting on the drums and playing. I hadn't touched a drum kit until then.
Okay.
Because at home, my dad wouldn't even keep a pair of sticks, thinking, I just take towards that. So, yeah, so they just forced me to play, and I said no, and they thought I was throwing attitude, like, oh, I'm so cool, I'm not going to play. I really didn't know how to play, and I went and sat on the drum kit, and I started playing.
Okay.
To the song, and I kept the groove and all of that, and then they were like, their doubts were clarified. They were like, see, you were throwing attitude. Like, no, I really don't know how this happened. It just happened. So then after that is when I realized drumming was something that came naturally to me. And I didn't need a drum kit. I would just close my eyes, imagine a drum kit, be it Neil Peart's drum kit or Mike Portnoy's drum kit, and once in your imagination, you can own anything, right? So, so I'd listen to a lot of music, try and figure things out. And I didn't need an instrument at home, which is why, I never got to practice much. And I'd find some iron rods and, just play with that at home when no one's at home. And I've gotten thrashed by my mom in the middle of the night and all that. I'll just wake up and start going tut, 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 tut.
Okay.
Middle of the night, like, So that's how I got into music. And then when I got into playing music, and then Tony's drummer wanted to do something different, and then Tony was like, why don't we play together, because we have the similar music taste. So I said, okay. So then Tony gives me 2 tapes. One was Best of Extreme, and the other one was Van Halen Balance. I listened to the tapes and I said, no, this is not happening. What I did in the music room was, it was like, you can imagine what I could do without knowing what I was doing. And to see all these professional guys was just killing it. So the next day I went to Tony, I handed him the tapes and I said, listen, this is not for me. I can never play this. And Tony has always been supportive. In fact, like a great direction in my life. So he was like, hey, listen, even I can't play any of this stuff. But, this is the kind of stuff that, we'd really like to play. So let's work on it one by one, little by little. So then I said, okay, if this guy is so confident, let me just at least give it a try. So went back, started listening to more music, practicing, as in just, mental practice, because no drum kit, no sticks. And we ended up playing all the songs in Best of Extreme, one after the other, and Van Halen Balance as well. Not all the songs in Balance, but most of it.
Most of it.
And we started enjoying the journey. So, we just did it because we were in love with playing rock music. And that's where it started.
Correct.
And before all of that, MTV used to play a lot of... earlier, they used to play some great stuff. Then slowly it shifted to, more of the pop stuff and Backstreet Boys and all of that, which was, again, great. So I'd sit and listen, play the TV and, just pick up something and play along with those songs. And one day when my dad walked in and he was like, oh, what are you doing? I said, oh, check out this song. It's so great. He's like, yeah, it's good, but let me play you something. And he went through his cassette collection and he pulled out this album called 24 Karat Purple by, of course, Deep Purple. And he played Smoke on the Water for me. And I was like, whoa, man, what is that? And then he's like, oh, wait. Next song coming up, Black Knight. And then I was like, oh, that's crazy. Then he said, wait, next one, Speed King. And that's when I told myself, I really wanted to play the drums. And, those songs really got me
Okay.
playing music and, got me interested in it. And all the distortion and the heavy songs and the vocals and the bass line. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. But besides that, there was always music at home. Uh, at home, they'd listen to everything from film music to ghazals to Indian classical to rock, pop, metal, jazz. So that way, I was like very
Okay.
exposed to music.
Okay.
So
It's so cool that, your dad actually saw you, listening to some music, and then he showed
Yeah.
the kind of songs that he would listen to. Did he ever teach you anything? Because you told me that he was also a drummer.
Yeah, he was a fantastic drummer, but they were all so scared at home that I'd take up music, and here I am. Even until recently, my mother was like, get married and then you can do music. I'm like, no, that's not happening. So, yeah, no, he never taught me anything.
Okay.
Except much later when I started playing, then he allowed me to fix a drum kit at home, and if I'm playing something, he'd be like, "No, maybe you should do this." And those were just once or twice. He's just told me, go about it this way, but he never interfered as per his own words. He thought I was taking a direction which was what was suiting me and what I liked. So he never taught me. My learning was more from watching others. Like there were some really great drummers. Some of them are still playing. At the point, there were beasts on, because there were no music schools or anyone who had enough knowledge except like big guys like Ranjit Barrett and of course I think. Roberto Narayan, in terms of drumming. There were other great drummers, but I don't think they had any formal education. So they all played by ear. So I'm not saying these were the only two great drummers. There were many fantastic musicians. And in the process, all of us came out, like Ryan, Durga. Durga was one of the greatest drummers that Bangalore's ever had. Of course, she stopped playing. I mean, she plays a little bit now. She moved to Australia. She got into other stuff over there, And that really inspired us. And so watching a lot of people play, and more than anything else, it was listening. So we had to listen. No one knew what was going on in the song. So we had to, make sense of it and let our bodies flow in the right direction. And obviously your body always, once you're in that space, it always corrects itself to you doing the right things the right way. So that was how, that was my learning. And of course, when I moved to US for my work, I was working in the software industry. I was playing in church over there with this person called Jim Whittaker.
Okay.
He's played with Santana and Steppenwolf and all of that. This big guy and great piano player. He put me onto this person called Dom Moyo, who used to play with Abe Laboriel and all of those guys. So I did a few classes with him. That was my only formal training in music. That was many years later. That was around 2006, 2007. But otherwise, it was only listening. And of course, the finances were very tight at home, which is why they didn't want us to take up music. My friends, one is my first band with Tony, and Tony and I joined a band called Mixed Fruit Jam.
Okay, yeah.
That band really shaped us because they were all level-headed kids who did great in life, come from very good families, and very clear about what they wanted. We all played music because we loved music, not for the fame or the money. There was no money. And the other set of friends from my engineering times. So one of those engineering guys, we call him Satan because anything he says just happens.
Okay.
He'll walk into the exam hall and he'll say, "Don't study this, just study this. This is what's coming." I'm like, and that's what will come. So,
okay.
And and mostly the wrong things would happen. So we used to call him Satan. So he lent me his Walkman,
Okay.
and these guys would even buy me batteries, because of course, as I mentioned, the finances were extremely tight. So they'd even buy me batteries for me to listen to the songs. So we'd record the same song on both sides, because if we rewind
The
with
tapes
the
gets, yeah.
batteries, tapes
Okay.
will go get
Batteries, yeah,
spoiled,
correct.
and the batteries will run out. So we did a lot of listening, because of that. Because every time you miss a part, if the parts, we just turn the tape around, and if you're lucky, the part will be somewhere around there. If you're not, then we have to start from. If it's the end of the song, then we have to start from the beginning of the song. So there was a lot of listening happening, and yeah, we'd listen to a lot of music, and I remember before practice, Tony and I would finish church. We used to go to the same church, and we'd either take a bus or take a walk to Brigade Road, go to Pico's. Pico's was the joint where
Yeah.
Sundays you walk in. Each table will be a band having breakfast,
Wow,
like
that's so cool.
Trinity, Cryptic, Cryptos, so all of these guys. And we were little kids, and these guys were already like killing it in the scene. So we'd go say hi to them and thermal in a quarter. And I think Bruce and Rajiv and most of the musician guys, all the big guys, they really liked Tony and I, probably because of how involved we were. We were also very respectful, looking up to them. And, we'd ask a lot of questions. How do you play this? How do you play that? Always talking about music. So they'd encourage us a lot. And so we'd go just say hi to them, walk up to Richmond Town for our practice. And while we are waiting for others, we'll reach there early. We'll go to an internet cafe. That time it was $10 for an hour, I think, or $20. So $10 for a half an hour. And Tony one day was like, hey, come, let's go. Check this out. I have to show you something. So we went, loaded up mikepotnoy.com. And there's a part where you can load up his entire drum kit. It's called the Purple Monster, his drum kit. One of his drum kits. And so you can load that up. And you know how long it used to take to load up each. Even a JPEG would take 5 minutes to load.
Yeah.
So this entire user interface with sounds and everything to load up, and then it'll load, and then we'd click on one drum and it'd go ting, and you're like, whoa. So I think we've done this pretty much every week. Every time we'd go to an internet cafe, we'll load up the site and we'll just click on each drum and see, how it sounds and, what is this, what is that, because he had I think the Purple Monster was a 37-piece drum kit.
My God, okay.
Yeah, and we've seen, like, in our practice room, it was a 5-piece drum kit with one broken ride and hi-hats.
Yeah.
In that also, when you're playing, suddenly you turn around, the second tom will be missing. It would have fallen down and it'll go rolling. So someone will have to quickly pick up the tom and fix it before the next roll comes in, So yeah, so that's how that was my learning.
Okay.
Most part of it.
Okay. So now, since you're pretty much self-taught, right? And what is your setup right now? How did you come up with, okay, this is how many toms I need, this is how many cymbals that I need?
Well, over the years and following drummers, big drummers, great drummers, you and playing different kinds of music, you slowly arrive at the sound that you really like. So my setup would be something like a 5-tom setup and 2 snares, although 1 snare is more than enough. I seldom use the second snare. And of course, kick drum with a double bass pedal and my favorite cymbal, Zildjian. And Tama being my favorite drum kit, or Yamaha, one of the two. Over the time, you listen to so many different bands, and then you develop your own sound, right? And so technically, I'd like to have this drum kit that you see behind me. That's the kind of setup that I would like to play on in live shows, but it's not it's not possible to have that kind of a setup because sound check takes longer, and I'm also very particular about sound, so I piss off my band and my sound engineers. And I mean, I basically want a good
Good
sound,
sound. Yeah.
in my monitors and outside. I know the sound engineers do a great job, but monitors, how do we fix that? So over time, this is the setup that I would really love to play on. But then, since it's not feasible most of the time, sound check time is less, and you have to get things going as soon as possible with as little as you have. So I use a 5-piece drum kit, and
Okay.
of course, when I'm playing Bollywood stuff, I like smaller toms. When I'm playing rock, I like bigger toms. But if I have this, then I can play all kinds of music,
Music.
because then you have so much more choice to make in a song.
Okay.
Because if a song is well rehearsed and you fix the parts, then you hear the song in the head when you're playing. So you don't really have, you try and get that sound out of the drum kit, and you've planned everything beforehand, so you're going to play the same thing. But when you're playing shows where it's not important that you play that particular role, but you can play whatever you want to over there, not whatever you want to, but something that's musical. So at that point, what happens is what you hear and what you feel at that time, and what role would fit in
Yeah.
there, is what you play. So this a larger drum kit with basically more sounds, really helps you. It gives you that much more space to play around with your
Yeah.
sounds, and
Yeah.
make it more musical
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. You just mentioned that, of course, there's a rehearsal pattern and you guys try to fix that as much as possible. But during a live scenario, sometimes you feel, live is a place where your emotions can be different. It will not remain the same, depends on the audience, depends on the setup, right? Say, imagine that you guys have rehearsed and you have locked down all the parts, even the roles and stuff like that. But has there been a situation where you felt different and you played a different role, and the musicians would look and what just happened? Surprise elements like that.
Uh, yeah, for the most part, I mess around a lot in during jams when we are practicing, but when I'm on stage, I'm very to the point.
Okay.
And very rarely, like when I'm comfortable on stage, and I'm just going for it, I'll just end up playing something where I've had Prashant, the bass player, and Tony and Noel, like one of the gigs when we were playing, and I just played this role, and then they just turned around and they started smiling. I was like, like, wow, what was that? It happened with Swaratma once, where I used to stick to their whatever we had practiced in keyboard minimalistic. And once I heard the violin so clearly, and Sanjeev was just going for it. And at one point, and when you play so much, you become good at anticipation, right? And I just knew exactly where he was going, and I started to phrase the entire thing on the drum kit, which was a really long thing. And their manager suddenly turned around, and I can see him from there. He held his head. He thought he thought it was going all over the place. He just held his head, and he was like, "What's going on?" And then when we ended, with the thing, and it was very musical and all of that, the whole band turned around and they were like, "Wow!" And that guy just jumped out, the manager, and
Okay.
he was like, I could see him running around like, "What the hell happened?" So sometimes, yeah, it happens. I don't try anything fancy just for the sake of
Yeah.
making it fancy, because it is end of the day, it's all about music, and there are so many people who are dependent on you. You can't just throw them
Yeah, of
off.
course.
And the people are watching, listening. They have to enjoy it as well.
But that's the thing about live, right? Sometimes moments like this I mean, these are good memories right now. What you just spoke about, you can always think about it and have a laugh about it and imagine things like. I think that's the beauty of live music, correct? Talking about bands, we spoke about Moksha, right? Can you tell us about how you joined Moksha?
Wow. So I even got to know about Moksha when so I wasn't allowed out of home I had to be at home by 6 o'clock, even during college days, and I had to be studying. And yeah, that's pretty much when I met Tony. And Tony was doing a road show for Moksha, and Angel Dust was opening for them. And Tony, after the road show, and he watched the gig, and he came back and he was like, "My God, this band Moksha from Chennai, madness! That guitar player, the singer, the band, everything is so good, And he just got me like looking forward to knowing more about Moksha. And he'd speak about Moksha almost every day. So after my engineering, I got placed in a company. Although here I was trying to get into sound and music and all of that, my mom just slapped me at the back of my head and said, "Go work, make some money." Not in the intent of make money, slavery.
Yeah.
You're my child. You better listen to me. She was like, "This is good. Just do it. Just don't ruin things for yourself." And I understood the situation at home as well, and I had to be of support.
Yeah.
So I took up the job, and I wanted to move to Bombay. I loved the place at that point, and great people, and some musician friends and all of that. But I used to play with, we guys, Tony, me, the whole People Tree setup. It was called Boomy. It is still called Boomy. They just play very rarely. And I used to play with that band, and I thought going to Chennai would give me more accessibility to Bangalore. I don't have to take a flight. I don't have to be on a bus for like 2 days or whatever, just getting here and getting back. So I could come on weekends to Bangalore, practice with the guys, and see if there are any shows to play, and then go back and do the work. So I moved to Chennai, and I wasn't in a good state of mind, and I was very low, things not going well at work. So I was just walking by a Satyam theater, I think, one day, quite depressed.
Okay.
In my formals, office wear, clean shaven, and this band called Garage Monsters Incorporated, amazing band. I ended up playing with them as well. So their band with Aubrey on bass, one of the greatest bass players ever, Josh Markraj from Chennai, one of the most amazing guitar players, and Nikhil Cherian on vocals, and oh my God, I suddenly forgot the drummer's name. Arun. Yeah, so they were playing, and they spotted me in the crowd, and they were like, "Hey, you're Willy, right?" I had met them like a year before at NLS. This friend of ours, Sharon, introduced us, and I'm kind of bad with names and all of that. So they were like, "You're Willy, right?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I don't know, just walking around. So a little backstory to this: when I got into the job, and I thought I'll come over weekends and all of that. The salary that I was getting paid wasn't enough, so I'd stay there. And then later on, my manager, dirty guy, he made me work 7 days a week, no leaves, nothing. So I wasn't getting to do music, and my grand plans of traveling, doing music, playing music with the band, coming home, none of that happened. So these guys were like, why don't you come jam on a song? I said, I haven't played the drums in like 6 to 8 months now. I don't think I'll be able to play. Said, no, it's okay. Come, let's play. These are the songs on the list, and it was a public show, open to all. So they said, let's play Cupid's Dead. I said, okay, if I can, and we played and we slammed it, and it came out really well, and so. So then Arun was leaving to Australia, and so these guys said, we have an album launch, and why don't you play? And then I started playing with them. And while all of that was happening, Aubrey used to play with Moksha. And Moksha consisted of all the greatest of the musicians, like Christopher Samuel, known as Christy, Leon Ireland, Alan, Timmy, all of the guys. Am I forgetting anyone? So then Moksha was looking for a drummer.
Okay.
Because their drummer at that point, very nice drummer, great drummer, Vasant, he was leaving to Berkeley. So they were auditioning, and so I auditioned for the band, and then that's how I got in. And it was a dream come true. Like, I never thought I'd be playing for Moksha. When I was, from the other side, I would just worship them, as what a band they are. And when I got into the band is when I got to know more about the band, all the inside stuff, and just amazing fun. Great band, very clean. Uh, we'd play rock and commercial stuff, and all of that, and we loved doing that. But before going on stage, they'd all get together, have a prayer, and then go on stage. But the band in itself was great fun, amazing fun. I got to meet such great people through musicians through that band, like Keith Peters, Jim Satya, Sudhin Prabhakar, and I can just go on naming, all the big names in the industry, and I got to play with them as well. So that playing with all of these guys was also great learning in different forms. And the main learning for me was how good they were at their craft, and yet how nice as people that they were. No hang-ups, no, I'm so great. Oh, I can do this. No, it's just like fun, fun, fun. So just how good they were as people, how nice, how supportive, how encouraging, how funny, and yet doing what they're doing, and being really good at it. So yeah, that's how I got into Moksha.
Okay.
And then Aubrey left, and so we were looking for a bass player, and we were very close to a gig when Aubrey left. So after a couple of weeks, I told these guys, I have a guy in Bangalore. His name is Tony. He's my guitar player, but I think he can play the bass. So I called Tony. I was like, hey, Moksha. He's like, no way. I'm not a bass player, and I don't think I can fit in over there. These guys are monsters. I said, no, come over. So Tony came, and we had a first jam, and he played, and all crazy songs like Mr. Big and Rush and Dream Theater and Europe and all of that. And then after the jam, I got shouted at by everyone in the band. Like, why the hell didn't you tell us that this guy existed? Why were we like suffering so much, trying to find someone, permanent with us and all of that. So yeah, that's how Tony also got it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, good journey with them.
How long did you guys play together?
As Moksha?
Yeah.
In about 2 years after I joined, around then I had to move to the US. And
This is work basis?
work, yeah. And so I was wondering, because exactly at that point, Christy and Keith also called me saying there's a recording in Hyderabad with Harris Jayaraj, and he wants you to play. And then I had a US interview then. And so when I spoke to Christy, he said, you know what, go there, see how things are, if you like that stuff. Because the idea was that Moksha disbands here, move to Australia, regroup, and launch the album.
Okay.
So everyone had already applied for their PR and all of that, and I hadn't started any process. So it was easier for me to move through work. So move to US, and then from there apply to Australia, and then that way I can move there easily. But unfortunately, a month after I moved to the US, our singer Leon, he passed away. He had a major asthma attack. Great guy, great fun. One of the best singers ever. Very clean, no smoking, no drinking, nothing. He just, he had the severe asthma problems. Even in our jams, he'd come with all the mufflers and sweaters and jacket, and he'll stand like that and sing throughout. Because of the AC running. Chennai is like really hot, right? So AC is running in the jam room, and he'd just sing low. But on stage, oh my God, every gig he'd sound better than the previous gig, So that happened, and it kind of broke our spirits. And some moved to Australia, and I stayed back in the US.
Okay.
Tony here, Timmy, Sean in Chennai, So
It's
It fizzled out.
unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. But great times. I can only think of all the fun times that we've had. Um, yeah.
It's crazy. And how did you get into the Raghu Dikshit project? I think you guys have played together for quite a long time.
I did 5 years with Raghu, I think. It was like a family all along, you know. It was just, and everything that comes with the family.
Yes.
You know, all the ups and downs and everything. But it was a great journey. How did I get into Raghu Dikshit's project? I think their drummer was uh, getting busy then. And I was still in the US, and Gaurav, the bass player of Raghu Dikshit band and Raghu Dikshit project, and also the manager at that point.
Yeah.
He was like, "Hey, you know, why don't you come down?" Because I'd always tell him, you know, I really want to do music, because that's when music was kind of slowly picking up. You know, things were beginning to happen. Very few bands, all bands were great, and gigs were opening up. And so he was like, "Oh, you know, why don't you move back?" And he was very kind, and I have to thank him for that opportunity. Where he said, "Okay, you know, I have a company. What's your loan? What's your monthly requirement? How much are you getting from here, there? How do we sort out?" So basically, it was all about the finances, how you get through life,
Yeah.
right? And so I said, "This is my commitment." So he said, "Okay, I'll pay you a certain amount to do work with me, and you can play other shows and this and that and figure things out. But you know, when the opportunity comes, I'd like you to play for Raghu Dikshit project." I said, "Yeah, sure." So unfortunately, it so happens that you know, I had a Dire Straits tribute to play with Prakash, the bass player, Bruce on guitars, and yeah. And I think it was the second practice, and I got a call for the same day as this gig. And now and I was like, "Dude, I'm committed here, you know, and I'm not going to say no to them. It's very dicey. Can I join in for the next gig?" He said, "These kind of opportunities, I don't know when it comes, but you figure it out, right?" So it was a big gig. And so I spoke to Bruce. And I don't think Bruce is very comfortable playing with anyone else other than Rajiv. So Bruce told me very clearly, "Yeah, but if Rajiv can take your spot, then this is a big gig for you. I'd want you to go do that. But if it's not Rajiv, then I'm sorry, I can't help you." So I called Rajiv, and then I started thinking, why isn't Rajiv playing this gig in the first place? So he had a holiday planned with his wife.
Okay.
This story I still tell Rajiv, and he's like, "No way," you know. So he had holidays planned with his wife, and I called him and I said, "Rajiv, listen, this gig has come up. I don't know what to do, you know, when Bruce is only comfortable with you playing. So is there any way you can fill in?" And I didn't know about his plans with holiday plans. He said, "Oh, listen, I've booked this, but I don't know what to do." And then he was like, "But this is a big gig for you. Let me see what I can do, you know." So he spoke to his wife, and his wife is, again, like one of the sweetest people on earth person. And he called me back and he said, "You know what? I'll fill in. You go play your Raghu gig."
That is so sweet.
Yeah. I'm
That is so
still
sweet.
very grateful to him. And every time I tell the story to him, he's like, "No, I don't remember any of this." I guess when people do it from the heart and they're not
It doesn't
expecting
matter.
anything, they just
Yeah,
want to do
exactly.
good for someone. Um, it just happens, and then it's out there, and they don't even remember it,
Yeah.
right? And every single time I meet him, I tell him this, and now I've stopped telling him. I don't want to irritate him. So that's how I got to play with Raghu.
And that was a lot of touring, right?
Oh,
You
yeah,
guys have
yeah. Playing with Raghu has been one of the best things that that ever happened to me when it comes to music. One of the best things in terms of what I learned on the road, the kind of gigs that we played, the music festivals, I got to see the big side of music, how it happens in the UK, US, Australia, the big music festivals. One of the gigs, I'm walking to the green room. My green room door said Willy Demoz. The next door said Sheryl Crow. so, yeah, just playing in that same space as such great artists and the kind of musicians that we got to meet. Oh, and after the gig, we'd just sit together, all these musicians, it's random people from random places, but amazing musicians, and learn something from them. And yeah, and the kind of gigs that we've done, and the traveling that we've done, the places we've seen. I think one of the days we did 3 gigs in one day.
3 gigs in one day. Okay.
Different venues. And out there, outside of India, musicians are not as spoiled as we are here. So we had to carry our own drum kit, sound, this, that, everything. So you take it out of the tow van, fix it yourself, sound check, play the gig, dismantle, fix it, put it back in the thing, go to the next venue.
Okay.
So I think we did 3
Okay.
in a day. So the festival side of things, the big side of music, suddenly one day we got to stay in John Butler's house. And of course, Raghu has all of these, he's collaborating with
Many
so
artists,
many big
yeah.
artists. You get to meet so many different people, and just, working at different venues with different people. We used to get up and running in 15 to 30 seconds. It was just a line check.
Correct.
There was no sound check, this, that, all of that. So we kind of figured out how to get it up and running, So I wouldn't take my drums and my monitors. Because when you do that, then you want this little more, little less, this, that, everything. And that time I wouldn't wear, it was just wedges, not even in-ear monitors.
Okay.
And no, I wouldn't even protect my ears like the way I do now with the mufflers, the noise cancellation headphones and all of that. So I could hear, what's happening. I could hear more than enough. So 30 seconds up and running,
Wow.
So great learning. And I would wish this direction or path for any and every musician out there to know how music is done and what is out there. Because if you're in your shell, you're the king of that space, right?
Yeah.
When you go out there, you're like, oh, it's very humbling what's out there and how you're just this tiny grain
Correct.
among so many different things, and you're just like you're a nobody,
Correct.
So a lot of lessons learned, lot of big people that we met, a lot of big gigs that we played, a lot of traveling. Festivals were a lot of fun. I wish every musician gets a chance.
Correct.
Of course, that's too much of an ask, because that's not something that you get on a regular basis. Even now, there are lots of gigs happening, and wedding gigs or corporate gigs, or and all of that. But that
is
path
very
that
different.
he tracked was mind blowing. Was a beautiful experience, which I will always cherish.
Okay. And I think you guys would get different set of audience every time.
Yeah.
Like every time it was new people you would play the music to.
Yeah.
And that itself again is,
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also see a bunch of them who would be there for every single gig. I've in fact told one of their close friends of the band, I've told them, next time I see you at this gig, I'm going to disown you. I'm like, every single gig, right? They're there.
That's the kind of fan following I hope, happens here as well. Because they are so true to, the band, the artist that they love, and they do everything. And they even help out artists in many ways.
Yeah.
And that is really sweet. And another thing I want to talk about is, you spoke about the line check being for about 30 seconds to 1 minute. And sometimes you go to venues around here and you see the band. That is, I'm not like degrading any band or something like that, but the time they take for a sound check is too much. right? And then there is a scenario that there is no sound check, but just the line check, just to make sure that the signals are coming out of every instrument possible.
Yeah.
And then you just play, and then the sound check happens right then and there. Probably within the first song, you probably are set.
Yeah.
In that scenario, who was the sound engineer, and was it amongst you guys that would give the direction, or there would have been a sound engineer from the venue itself or from the space
Yeah.
that you guys were performing?
Yeah. So all the UK tours, there's this guy called Gary who used to do sound for us. He's worked with Mr. Big and Iron Maiden and all of that. He's done sound for them.
Okay.
And of course, we'd have a monitor engineer sometimes in some of the big festivals who we'd have no clue what's going on. So what I would do over there is I just write it on a piece of paper saying, not in decibel levels, but in just percentage levels, saying I need vocals at this percentage, I need drums at this percentage, I need, this is how much I need, and I just go give him like a ballpark figure as to where I want my monitors to be, and he'll immediately get it done. But speaking about soundcheck here, see, so the gigs that you get the least time for soundcheck are always the best gigs somehow.
Okay.
I would think it's because now you're not so dependent on everything that you're hearing. So everything's coming from your head and what you know, what you've rehearsed. So you're concentrating more on the song, and slowly it goes in the background because now you're comfortable in that space. Whereas when you spend too much time on soundcheck, of course, there is a very good reason for spending more time on soundcheck, that you get the right sound. But how you get that right sound is also a big learning in the process that you do, and how quickly, because sometimes I myself take a long time, because now these days we don't use wedges anymore. We use in-ears, so the sound level and all of that, most people still don't get the idea of how to balance their in-ears, right? So that takes a long time, and sometimes it's just the sound of your instrument, right? It's very important that you hear the instrument the way you want to, the way it's supposed to sound, as opposed to just something just coming in.
Yeah.
Be it loud, soft, be it muddy or random sound, or too much of the snare bottom, or there has to be a certain way the sound comes through to you, which you enjoy playing to, right? And then your performance is that much better, that much more better. So that ends up. So there are many reasons why a lot of bands end up taking a lot of time for sound check. Tech guys, patching is not right, this, that, everything, and then the sound's not coming through right, things like that. But I've always had a great show, and we've just had to go on stage and just start off.
Okay.
Because then whatever the sound is, now you can't blame the sound. That's how it's going to be. Now in that sound, how are you still going to sound good? Because there are going to be lots of musicians in the crowd, and also people who have paid to listen to you.
Yeah.
Right? They are not going to know what troubles you're going through. You miss a beat, and they're
That's
like,
it, yeah.
haha, you screwed up. So when people put too much time, they overthink into monitors. Then that's when. So even till today, I struggle with the monitors. Especially the drum sound.
Okay.
Except for when guys like Vinod Bangiera and all are doing the sound, then it's Diwali for me on stage. I always tell them that. And it also depends on the mics that I used on the drum kit, venue, the board, the engineer. So many different things. Yeah. But I think I deviated from the question here.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Since we're still talking about your touring days with the Raghu Dixit project, any show that it went so well that you did not expect? I mean, the response of the crowd or the way it sounded. Any show that comes to your mind?
With Raghu?
Yes.
Many shows. Especially the shows. Here, he's already famous and all of that, right? when we'd go out there, it'll be like a sea of white folks everywhere. Like this entire, like, you won't even be able to see the end of the crowd, and all of them jumping to his music, up and down. And yeah, a lot of gigs like that. There was one gig that we played. We were, I think that was the first year that we toured, and nobody knew who he was. And music festivals mainly, I mean, people come there to discover new artists, right? It's not like, oh, I know this artist, I know this song, so I will go listen to them. Even if they're playing CD on stage and miming, that's not the case out there. They just want to discover new artists. There was absolutely nobody on the field. Everyone late night, drunk, all of them in their tents and all of that. Camping was going on. We went, did a quick sound check, and there were some 15 people standing there, slowly, each one crawling out of their tents. By the time we got into the second verse of the song, the entire place was packed. Everyone, whoever was sleeping, doing whatever, whether they were interested or not, they thought, I'll skip this band, I'll go to a different city. Everyone at 10 a.m. or something, I can't remember the time. My memory is a little faded. But the entire place was packed. And at that time in the morning, everyone jumping up and down to the music,
Wow.
So we've played a lot of shows like that. We've played Glastonbury, one of the biggest music festivals. Yeah, a lot of great gigs.
Amazing. Talking about People Tree, I know that Sujay is in Australia and it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there any plans of People Tree going live again?
I don't know. I really don't know. We just had a brief conversation about it recently because Tony was telling me, hey, Pami thinks we should get things moving because Sujay looks like he's going to take some more time to come back. So we were wondering how to go about it. And, if we do that, we'll just be doing it for the love of the music that we write over there. Because not many venues these days. And the good venues have all shut down. The existing venues, it's a different kind of stuff that they ask for. And it's more business rather than, it's a fair thing to, that they incline towards. But then not enough venues, and we cannot take up, I know Raghu, Swaratma, all of these guys have taken their original music to corporate side of things and all of that, but it's not the same for everyone, right? So, and People Tree music is also way different from what these other two bands do. So, and a lot of people these days, unfortunately, have only inclined towards Bollywood. And so when we play corporate gigs or anywhere, they're very clear they want Bollywood. But of course, understandable because they want to be entertained. They're not there to discover new music.
Yeah.
So where is the money for independent artists? We cannot compete with Bollywood. Not at all. They have crores of rupees going behind the marketing of each movie and each song. Whether you like the song or not, in 10 days, you are bound to start liking it because it's played everywhere. You're only listening to that. We don't have that kind of budget to put it out there and stuff like that. So the indie bands like us, it's difficult to survive. And so if we do get back and write another album, it'll be purely because we love doing it, and for which we need to find the time besides the time that we put towards making a living. Sorting out our finances and stuff like that. Things are not the same once you get to a place where you run your own family.
Yeah, of course.
So there's a lot of variables which you have to prioritize.
Correct.
You cannot run around like you're a teenager where your parents are paying for your instruments and food and everything and but having said that, there are some really great musicians that are coming out these days. Of course, the accessibility towards information internet has just opened up the entire world. It's just there right in front of you on your computer screen, and anyone can learn anything.
Yeah.
And the access to great equipments, and people knowing more, having more knowledge. Like when I was a kid, when I asked a great drummer, "How do you play like this?" He just said, "Practice," and he walked away. I didn't know what to practice. I had no clue what it is. I didn't know what rudiments were. Paradiddle, double paradiddle, what were those things? I had no clue, and no, that information wasn't available. And now everyone's starting off. They start off with gospel chops, and they all play so well. I mean, it's amazing. But yeah, so coming to People Tree, I'm not sure. I'd like to, but if we do that, I'd also like some gigs.
Yeah.
Because writing music, sitting at home, and on the other side, taking it live and performing it live are two different things. And when we play it live is when we feel alive.
True.
Right? So, and then the real part of being alive comes into question, where how much are you getting paid for the gig? So music feeds your soul, money feeds your stomach. So a lot of people get this confused, and they say, I still get I have to mention this. I still get calls from big colleges like IIM and IITs saying, "Sir, can you play?" "Yeah, sure. How much money do you have? What's the budget for the show?" "Sir, we will give you exposure."
Oh my God. Not even the budget.
We will give you exposure. It's a big stage, and we will do this. And then, so where is this heading? What do you think of music and musicians? Are we not human beings? Don't we have a family to feed? Don't we have our own needs? How can you? I mean, it's a great thing. Yeah, a small band going out there, they want exposure, all of that. Great. But, you need to also do some research on who you're calling.
Correct.
And, why do we want to call them? You want to have a great band on stage, and you want to pay us an exposure. And how is that going to translate? It's a hit or miss, right?
Yeah.
So hit or miss in a big fashion these days, because attention span is that much lesser,
Yeah.
right? And we are not backed up with so much finances that we could go do free shows everywhere, and then it's a catch-22 kind of situation. You do this, get famous, or don't do this and stick to your guns, and then where do we go? It's so I think a lot of people are playing on this emotional bit, saying, "I will give you exposure. Now you have to be grateful that you're having so many people that you're playing to, so you can take your music to another place, and then you'll make money." So that whole concept and the ideology behind that is very flawed.
Yeah.
Which means you're just in context, or as a concept. Yes, we reach out to more people and all of that, but I don't think that's your real thought process behind giving us that stage, right?
Correct.
You want a good band to play there, and you don't want to pay them. It's as simple as that. But whereas a Bollywood star, you're willing to pay 35 lakhs, 45 lakhs, 1 crore, for them to come and perform. What's where do you draw the line, and what's the comparison? Musicians, right? And so you're putting the whole value on the star thing, which, yes, good. But not so much that you call the other musicians and say,
Exposure.
play for free.
Yeah.
So a lot of change needs to happen. People in positions who can make the change need to man up.
Exactly.
And do the right thing.
Yeah.
And the guys with that power and position, if they start to con people, then musicians are a dying breed. Quite honestly, with AI and everything coming in, I think already a lot of studios are dropping a lot of programmers.
Yeah.
A student of mine, he's also into making videos and films and stuff like that. And he was like, "Hey, Willy, just check out the song. How do you like it?" I was like, "Wow, great, very quirky movie song, very nice. Lyrics sound great. The vocal lines are very interesting." And they're like, "Who composed this?" He was like, "Oh, I just put this on on an AI app, and it gave it to me in 5 minutes." Because the music director was saying it'll take him so many days and so much budget and all of that. I just had to spend so much on this. So yeah, where are we heading as musicians? Where is this clan of people? Like, what is going to happen to them? Are we secure? No,
No.
because anything happens, first thing they'll shut down is entertainment.
Yeah.
Before COVID happened, 2 months before, we had many shows lined up. 2 months before the actual lockdown was commenced, the entertainment was cancelled. And it only opened up much later after everything was opened.
Yes. And I think post COVID, a lot of changes have happened in terms of shows. Like you said, a lot of venues got shut down. One of them being Double O Heaven, which was also, curating original artists and
Yeah.
making sure, that's what the format was. And many, many venues like that who were supporting the independent artists and original music. One of them being B Flat as well.
Yeah, that was a good venue.
Yeah, good venue, great host. Aarti being one of the best hosts, and Humming Tree,
Yeah,
Take Five.
yeah.
And I may have been missing few names, but yes, many, many things close. And I think that's why a lot of people are doing covers, which I do understand why they do it. For the love of music and the survival, that is required. But I hope that change happens, and like you said, the people who are in power
Yeah.
take charge of this and
Yeah,
do
yeah.
the changes. Because if you ask us, we are there to help.
Yeah.
We've been doing that.
Yeah.
And just want to see, yes, there has to be a bit of money that needs to be backed up for this, and I hope that happens.
I hope that for all the musicians' sake, because there are way more musicians now than back in the days when we guys started, and so it's not that easy. Also, being a musician in the present day, and so I hope people understand this. And I've spoken to a lot of people who, I've had some people come here. How much is this? How much is that for lessons? Right? I learn it 2 months enough, 3 months. I'm like, boss, I've been playing for 25 years. I don't think I've even scratched the surface. Okay, that's on the professional front, but the arrogance of thinking, common man thinking that music is so easy and so, end of the day, everyone resorts to music for some kind of,
Yeah.
like calming themselves or, for whatever entertainment or everything. It's all about music. But when it comes to valuing it,
Yeah.
you don't.
Yes.
Right? So how is that going to change is something that everyone needs to think about. Because if everyone starts to think, I have people coming asking, in 3 months, can they do this reality show? I'm like, no. And don't put them through reality shows. It's very bad for your children.
Yeah.
So yeah, they think it's very easy. Music, just there's someone standing there and doing that on the guitar fretboard, and music just comes out, magically,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of misconception about music and
Yeah.
musicians. The effort that we put in,
Of course.
it's an art, it's a craft, right? It's a trade, it's a skill that you're putting in so much work into it. All the great
Yes.
musicians out there, they just didn't jump out of the sky and say, this is this is where I am. They put in hours and hours of work for that one show, just to entertain that one person. You may be paying like just $500 for a ticket to come watch, and you may just come for once, like, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter for us. You're there. We need to, like, play well for you and entertain you and stand by what we believe in as musicians. And it's very easy for people to just say, this is not Bollywood.
Yeah.
They are not famous. Or, I hear a lot. You're in the crowd, right, after the gig. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah,
That's a
it's-
good band. Just enjoy it. And then people have, many different things. Oh, he plays this way. He plays. Who cares? I mean, he's playing.
Yeah.
And it's different. if everyone sounded like one guy, then why would we need so many more people?
Yeah.
Right, learning music. And it's that it's your personality, your upbringing,
Yeah,
your
so many
environment, so
things.
many things that finally when you're on stage and you're
Yeah.
expressing yourself,
Yeah.
all of that comes in, right? Not just you sitting and practicing in one
Yes.
in a closed room.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, you can draw inspirations from people, but ultimately that inspiration should, you take all in, and then you bring out your own version of your style of playing and your kind of music that's
Yeah.
there. And I hope, people get that.
Yeah.
It's okay to do covers, but
yeah.
but original is going to make you somebody else.
Yeah, I totally love playing covers. We, in fact, started off playing covers. Back in the days, there was no concept of original music. We all would play covers, and we'd choose covers which are very challenging, which really helped us become the musicians that we are. Especially as I was talking about this band, Mixed Fruit Jam, we'd play all the way from Shania Twain to Iron Maiden, and everything between in that spectrum, like all kinds of stuff, Cause and Savage Garden and Deep
Oh, Savage
Purple
Garden.
and Dream
Yeah.
Theater. In one set, we'll have all of this,
Yeah.
which helped us become a lot more versatile.
Yeah. And get your act together, different kinds of music. True.
And I love playing covers. I love playing Bollywood as well because I love that whole holding the groove, and here and there I can send a little bit of a Latin and Indian stuff, and stuff. But again, the creativity aspect of being an independent artist, writing your own music, throwing that out there. What are you doing with so many years of experience of
Yes.
music?
Yes.
Replicating is one thing. Replicating, playing covers and replicating other stuff, which is good also because you're still keeping in touch with what others have done. So there's a lot of learning from there.
Correct.
But also you need to put that into action for your own self, for your own band.
Yes.
Get something out there, put more music out there. Yeah, but there's a lot of music out there already. I think thousands of songs are released each day. So. And it's all available at the press of a button.
It's easy. It's
now.
right there. Any artist.
Yeah.
There's so many updates right now.
Yeah. Some of our friends back in the days used to take a tape. There used to be a shop on Brigade Road, and he'll have some songs, some tapes. So they'd go take an empty tape because the tapes would be very expensive. So they'll buy an empty tape and go pay them $11 a song or something to record on the piracy. But we didn't have access to all of these tapes. And there'd be one guy who'd bring in this, and or some people who've gone abroad and they'd buy some. Like my granddad was abroad, so whenever he'd come back, he'd buy a lot of Deep Purple and Boney M and Michael Jackson and ABBA and all of that. But besides that, when we guys started to move around, and our pocket money, at least my pocket money, was $10 per week. As in, if you miss your lunch, if you forget your lunch, you eat with this. If you miss your bus, you come back with this. So you can't do both at the same time, right? And my college was on Mysore Road. I studied in RVC.
Okay.
And you can't miss the bus.
Yeah.
You can go without eating. So those days, in such times, we did resort to borrowing tapes mostly. And I know some guys would go record some assorted tapes.
Yeah,
and they
of
just
course.
come back, listen to it.
Yeah, we've all been there. And sometimes we didn't have the money to buy the cassettes also. And then we would, ask our friends, and that's what we would do.
I don't know how many tapes of Tony that I'm supposed to return.
Is that true, Tony? Let's see.
Even recently, he was like, "Hey, that tape of mine."
Crazy. Bro, let's talk about your school now. How long has it been that you've started the school?
It's been 6 years since we've been running this branch.
Okay.
Recently, we started another branch.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I really don't know why I did that, but I would just say God has always had a plan for me. And when I see where I come from to where I am, there's always this hand coming out there, reaching out for me and pulling me out of any trouble that I am in. And if I've gotten myself into this, then I'm sure, there is a plan. That's what, I think. But otherwise, I really don't know why I did that. Again, it comes back to how much people appreciate music and how much they value it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and how, basically that, how much they value it, and so how much are they willing to pay for it. I've known people who just for $500 cheaper, they've gone to places where they do 25 students in a class. Music can never be taught in a classroom setup.
Yeah.
Here we do batches, but still we are not teaching them as a classroom setup. We still have to teach each and every
Individually, yes.
child.
Yes, I think I remember I went to a keyboard, class, and so there was a violinist playing and there was a guitarist playing three different things, and I was like, I couldn't do that, and that is one of the reasons I left. But I get the point that you're trying to say is, giving attention to that one instrument and one student at a time. And I saw your school today. This is the first time I visited, and it is massive. And the way you have organized, this is where you teach the guitar, this is where you teach the violin, this is where the keyboards are, this is a drum room, and there's another drums with the electric kits over there.
Yeah.
So how much did you spend on this?
I'm even scared to utter that number now. Thinking of how things are. But and a lot of people think music education business is very lucrative. It's lucrative for people who run it as a business, but it's not for if you're a musician and you want to run it the right way, then it's a little tough, because you're a musician. You know what hardships you have come through, and what all it took for you to learn that little bit that you know.
Correct.
How you had to walk 15 kilometers to go meet one drummer to say, oh, what did you do in this part? All of that. But as I mentioned earlier, there's something in it, I guess. I leave that to God, and things will go well. Either ways, it's a good learning.
Yes.
I've gotten to understand more about people, and working with all of these children, and how smart they are, and how easily they pick up instruments. If they are in the right setup, in the right hands, with the right teachers, with the right kind of equipment and infrastructure, how well they do. There was a kid who started playing Beethoven in 8 months' time.
Wow.
And another kid who, who's Sujeth's son, Sujeth, a singer from People Tree, he did it in 2.5 months.
Okay.
And like a boss. Right? He called his dad one day. He's like, oh, Papa, come here. I want to show you something. So Sujeth was narrating the story to us. It was really funny. He was like, oh, Macha, I thought, he'll come and he'll play some Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star something. And then, I should send you the video.
Okay.
He is playing like a professional piano player who's been playing for some 20 years.
Wow.
Seriously, you have to see that video. And in 2.5 months. Of course, those are all exceptions.
Yeah.
Kids who take towards music very dearly, and that's all they do. But other kids, all of them do really well, and we've seen so many of them do extremely well. They learn so easily, they learn so fast, and just put in the time and effort for practice. Some of them did so well. So I asked this kid, what is he doing different? So we could help the other students as well. So I asked him, what are you doing differently? Other than what we tell you what to do. And he very innocently said, sir, you told me to practice 45 minutes every day. And so I practice 45 minutes every day. And that's that. There's nothing else that I do.
Wow.
So the importance of practice when it comes to a skill is very important, which is what everyone should understand. And a lot of people want things too soon. Anything that comes fast leaves you at the same pace.
Yeah.
And I really wish all the parents, adults understand, because end of the day, adults are the ones who making the decisions for their young ones. I just wish all of them understand how important music is for their children and for themselves, especially for children in their formative days. It makes them smarter, makes them more patient. It brings in a sense of I've put in so much work, and so I achieved this, right? So if you can achieve something in music, you can achieve anything in every field out there, because music is so demanding. It requires so much practice, patience. You need to be on it all the time. And it's extremely important that everyone, and that's something that we stand by. When I started the school, we didn't start the school to make more rock stars. We started the school so more people are aware of what music is, how it is done, and make them more um, sensible listeners of music, and so that they can appreciate good music the right way. And appreciating music, there's no right or wrong way, but they can at least know what to appreciate, and they're in a position to say, okay, this is good. There's a lot of scope for improvement with this, so that they're more intelligent listeners, uh, and um, and eventually the world will be a better place with more people inclining towards music,
Yes.
because it's such a peaceful art form. And mm, you can think of all the benefits that you can get through it, and there are papers that are being published. Music is being used as an alternative to medicine, an alternative, not as a supplement, but as an alternative for Alzheimer's and stuff like that, right? So how important music is, and how you need to value something that is so important in anyone's life, right? And anything of that value, you want it cheap. Come on, you need to get your priorities
Yes.
right? So I just wish that everyone understands that it just doesn't come, it just doesn't happen. And we've got a great facility here, great infrastructure, great teachers. We do everything right, but end of the day, when a student plays well, it's the effort of the student that has gone into it. And of course, this is our job. We have to do right by, especially when they are kids,
Yeah.
because we know how hard it was for us to grow up, wanting to learning new things and all of that. Now it's available, but you want it fast. Now that's not going to happen.
Yes.
And then I think they're all very stressed with their job and traffic and all of that they just take it out on where they can.
Yeah.
But I just wish and hope that everybody understands that it doesn't come easy, which is a good thing, when you work for it. And and then you can have that feeling and that sense of achievement, which makes you feel better, and better your life.
True.
Yeah.
All right. So, bro, what is next with Willy Demoz? What's happening?
I've been away from live playing a lot, and that's where my life lies. It's that's something that really energizes me and feeds my soul. And so I hope to start getting back into, once the second branch of ours is in a fair enough position. I want to get more into live playing, because I've been really missing it. I do practice, although I play very few shows in a year. I do practice, although ever since I started the second branch, there's only been just me putting out fire here, there, everywhere. But once that settles down, I'd like to get back to my drum kit and learn more instruments, because it's such a beautiful thing. I learned to play the tabla during the lockdown.
Okay.
So thank God for me not wasting time during lockdown, and it's just so beautiful when you sit down to practice. You get into practice, and it's so meditative, and you discover so many things about yourself, your body, your mind, how it works, and you're amazed. Oh my God, I could do this. I never knew. I never thought I could do this. And now I'm able to do this. And then how did I do it? You start thinking, right? And practice. Practicing what? Practicing the right things, rooting down to the fundamentals, spending more time with your fundamentals. Like what we teach our students here, I practice that for 2 hours before I even get into anything more. Uh, so, so it's not one class after another. It's about how much you've practiced and how well you know this itself. I mean, I've done my engineering. I know how we studied. We did very well, scored well, but it was all last minute scrapping. You cannot do that with music, right? You cannot show, this day we did this and the next class we did this. I mean, it's not helping the kids unless parents bring in that discipline saying, I don't care, you need to practice, because a simple thing, if a child does not want to eat, have his or her breakfast, the parent is not going to say, okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's, food is very important for the growth of your child. And so is music. So, bring in some guidelines and some disciplines and practicing and put in that work. Without the work, where are you going to go? So it's very important that parents also make sure that the kids practice. The first 6 months of learning any instrument is very, very important, especially for a child, because if they can do it then they have that sense of, I can do this. If they slack during that time, then they just feel like they are not cut out for it. And all that myth about not everyone can play music, or you're not, I didn't have the talent. It's a skill that you're learning. That's what I believe in, and everyone can learn it. How involved you are in that process is what takes you where you are. And of course, we didn't have the time or resource to put in that much practice. Imagine being a drummer back in the days, soundproofing, and so we'd have blanket and bedsheet on the drum kit. Play, and still, sometimes the neighbors would be like, boss, I'm sleeping, I had night shift, So, and that too for 20 minutes of playing, and 20 minutes is more than enough to disturb a man's sleep.
Yeah.
And fair point from their end as well, right? So, so now you've got so many places to go out there, practice. I think everyone has the resource to do it, and so the only thing that we are lacking right now, as opposed to before, was that drive to practice. Everything is there, except the very important thing, which is practice. So, having said that, I've seen some really amazing talent out there. Such young kids playing like a boss. It's amazing to see that. Where they take the craft to. Things that after so many years you're like, oh, what was that? How did he play that? And they are playing it like, like just taking a walk in the park. So, yeah, I mean, there is talent. We just have to bring in the discipline.
Correct. Yeah. All right, Willy, thank you so much for your time. And it's an honor to have you as in our show. And we spoke so much today.
Yeah.
And we covered great stuff, and your experience of live shows, and you as a teacher, you running a school, and so many bands that you've been part of. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we hope we do this again with, when your new stuff is out. Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah? So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Dinkar. You've always been a great friend, and I'm really loving this. The stuff that you're doing, and get more stuff out there. You have my full support, and all the guys that we are associated with, and all of them feel the same. I think I can speak for them, and I think it's a great initiative. Putting out stories about people who where they were and what they did to be where they are at now is very important. I mean, we are all but stories from the past, right? and moving on ahead.
Yes.
So this is a good space for for people to know and appreciate what they have now as opposed to what we had, and just do things better for themselves.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. And that was the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon. We will see you in the next episode. Bye.